I want to begin this message by asking all of you watching to raise one of your hands wherever you are in the room right now, as you did all those years ago at school in class when you wanted to ask the teacher a question. Bear with me, it does have relevance. Up to Friday the 8th of January 2021, on the church part of YouTube, HCF had posted 172 devotionals. Now I want to ask you a question. Keep your hand up if you have watched all of them. Have you watched all of them? Keep your hand in the air, and I'm just going to count the numbers of hands still in the air now. Four people. So that's Hilary, Alison, Jan and myself. You can put your hands down now. 4 people. Well done, ladies. It's quite interesting actually to look at the numbers of people who watched the early devotionals when they were first put on YouTube last March. The 3 of the first 4 were watched by over 100 people, and the 4th one by nearly 100 people. And in the 4 most recent messages, the number has been about 40. So it's clear a lot of people have already dropped off. The lockdown has eaten you. I want to go way back now in time to spend a few moments looking at a man who endured the first ever lockdown, which was global, and his name was Noah. Now it might interest you to know that the lockdown he was involved in actually lasted 1 year and 10 days. The flood started in the 17th day of the 2nd month of his 600th year, and God called him out of the ark over a year later on the 27th day of the 2nd month of his 601st year. Now in our lockdown, we've been allowed to exercise and to go out for essential things like food shopping and so forth, but his lockdown was even more restrictive. He was confined to an ark that he'd made carefully, following very clear instructions that God had given him. It says in Genesis 6:22 and again in chapter 7 and verse 5 that Noah did everything just as God commanded him. And in Genesis 6 verse 9 we read that Noah was a righteous man, blameless among the people of his time, and he walked with God. I wonder, has it ever occurred to you that if he'd given up, you and I wouldn't be here now? Apart from the aspects of Noah's character that I've just mentioned, I think he showed another hugely important trait of character leading up to and during that lockdown. And it was his sheer perseverance that impressed me. Perseverance is one of those things that doesn't get much noticed in church circles very often, because it's not as exciting as a gift of prophecy or healing or preaching. It's almost always a behind the stage activity. And right now it involves doing things like watching devotionals, keeping in touch via the weekly connect groups, and tuning in to take part in the Sunday morning services. And of course it involves being faithful to all the tasks involved in putting those services together. Tremendous perseverance, and there are others I haven't mentioned who are persevering fantastically well at this time. Thank you. See, perseverance involves a determination and active refusal on our part not to allow the lockdown to bring us into a state of inactivity. It's pushing on through the temptation that whispers, these things don't matter at the moment. As we see with Noah, perseverance is all about staying obedient and continuing to walk with God, even in the most trying of circumstances. I wonder if Noah got as high as the first deck, 12 or 15 feet up, and ever thought to himself, I'm bored rigid with this, I'm giving up. Well, possibly he did, but somehow I don't think so. I think he just kept on persevering until he saw that major lockdown through. And God didn't forget him and his family, and he won't forget you either. I want to end by asking all of us watching this to take a leaf out of Noah's book. Age 600, he remained fully obedient to what he was called to do. He was faithful. He persevered in a remarkable way during a total lockdown. Let's be glad today that he did, and let us do the same. Those of you watching this, you're actually the core faithful, still watching these messages. I want to encourage you now to send this one to 3 people in your close network of friends, maybe in this fellowship, perhaps in another one, and encourage them to persevere as well as Noah did.